Hi, it's Martin, Martin's Engine Services. Right, well, it's time for part two of the Mazda Ford Duratec 2 litre engine with the somewhat impressive problem with the valves. And the bottom end's coming apart in a minute. But I got all the head apart and I was having a look at things and oh boy, this is pretty spectacular. Cylinder 1, some light on it. Cylinder 1, you can see the extensive damage, gouging, hammering there. That's where the valve head was stuck in. It's beaten the end of the spark plug over. I mean, it's put dents in the valve seats, and know how hard these are. There's no damage to any of these valves on cylinders 2 and 4. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought. The inlet valves on cylinders 1 was fine, same as 2. And cylinder 3, the inlet valve, there's only one bent inlet valve, and it's not really that badly bent. It was out of this valve here. Now you can see that the valve head attempted to get, because there's an exact shape of it, attempted to get out, was stuck under the inlet. Now this inlet, I had to hammer this off and snap it off, and part of the valve stem is actually punched into the cylinder head and appears to be down about here into the head, which is rather impressive because it's actually bulged the valve seat in and bulged the inlet port. Now, I'm not even beginning to imagine how. This valve is not bent. It was bent up at an angle. The head was sitting over there, and when I tapped it out, it pinged straight. And I put this in the lathe, and it's not bent at all. So, quite impressive. Now, earlier on, when I was looking down the ports, and I said, I can see the carbon that broke off there, that's as far as you can see the valve. When you look down the port, that's all you could see. You couldn't actually see that the heads were missing. Now, none of these valve stems here are bent whatsoever. They are perfectly straight. Again, I run them in the lathe, and they run absolutely straight right through to the point where it broke off. So, I mean, that valve, these are made of special steel. I think it's something called stellite or steelite or something. They're very, very hard steel. And to snap that head off and shatter that's some incredible amount of force. There's some bits of it, and so the poor head is definitely done for in many, many ways. I'm not sure whether there's any piston to head contact. Maybe the bearings are gone, we don't know. Again, all the valves absolutely fine on 4. Yeah, so that's basically what we're dealing with. So fairly impressive damage. But a quick look at the pistons. There's the great big lump where the valve was stuck in and various hammer marks, and there's the crack. 3's got some interesting marks in it. So, okay, I'm going to flip it over now and take the flywheel off, and we'll have a look into the bottom end. I've got a feeling we might be beating a piston out of this, so could be entertaining. So I'll just pop things in the stand for a moment and get ready. Right, stand by for a little air gun action here to get this flywheel off. Well, no fear of the engine turning while we're doing this. Oh, magnet attached to the airline. And that really is a very, very light flywheel. Wow, it's even relieved on the back. So, again, now one of these things rev well. I've got a feeling actually that the 2 litre mx5, I think it's the NC series, uses a 6-speed gearbox. The 1.8 has a 5. I think my friend was saying that. I don't think it makes any difference, but maybe it's got a different clutch. Oh, one other thing I did, so I've lost it. One other thing I did do is I actually extracted a filter out of the variable timing solenoid, and It's absolutely spotlessly clean. Well, it was spotlessly clean until Martin just dropped it in the swarf on the bench, but there's nothing inside there. The screen's perfectly clean, so that answers that one. So they do have a filter, but a replaceable one. Right, let's turn this thing over. I'm pretty certain we're going to have a big leak of something, because I've got a feeling it's still got some coolant in, so just move things back a bit. We have the tray underneath ready, and see what kind of a mess we can make this time. Oh yes, there's some coolant in the block, I can see it. Oh, and loads of oil. I wonder where the oil's coming from, and of course there's no timing cover on there, is there? Yeah, okay. Ignore that one, folks. Now the compressor's come on as well. Right, I've got rid of some of that noise. Yeah, I wonder where the oil's coming from. There's a big hole in the front of the engine. Right, okay. Let's move that round. Now, as you can see, there's quite a difference in the sump design here, obviously between the rear and front wheel drive. You haven't got that funny cutout for the AC pump, and you've got a much more central, much deeper well. So I think the oil capacity is about the same, but that's clearly a much better design. Right, I'll just pause things for a moment, zip the sump off and see what we find. Right then, let's see what the sump has to say. She's hanging up on the rear oil seal. There we go. Hey. Right. What have we got in here then? Yeah. Exactly the same oil pickup height, in exactly the same place. They just moved it round into the well in there. So yeah, it's nice and gungy. I just zipped the bolt out the oil pump while I was at it. So we'll just get that off and have a look. But so that was all turning all right. Chain seems fine. We know there was no real problem with that, because say it's not had an oiling problem, so all pretty good. And heading for the bin. Right. Well, I suppose the only thing to do is start taking it apart. I mean, I guess what I'm going to have to do is take the main bearing carrier out, then undo the big ends afterwards to try and get that to drop down. I'm presuming it's seized on that piston, which is spread out into the bore, but we don't know. So I'll take the oil pickup off and see if there's anything lurking in there. Ah, too big. I was actually just wondering whether the likely scenario here was that possibly someone actually missed the downshift and they over revved it that way. Because the only reason I can really think of that's happened is that the valves got bounced, although there's no marks on any of the other pistons. That's the mystery. But why the two cylinders? Very strange. I'm just wondering if that was, that's what happened. Sorry. Right, there's nothing up the end of the pickup pipe. But I pretty much expected there wasn't going to be any problems of that nature. Again, there's no swarf in here, no shiny bits. Cleaning the pump, so yeah, that big end doesn't move. The other three all wobble side to side. This one, I think, is... Where's the scientific conrod testing tool? Now that one is absolutely solid. I guess the rod's actually just twisted or pinched up or something, but... Right, I guess it's time to... Oh, let's just pop the oil pump tensioner guide off and have a look at chain guide and have a look at that. Yeah, see that's exhibiting that wear pattern that the other couple of these I took apart has. This sort of, I think it's the fact the chain wanders a little bit that causes that slight marking across there. So they all seem to have that. So that, of course, was the bit that was missing in my engine. So I'll keep those two bolts now. I've got them. Yeah, and likewise, the sprung part of the tensioner, the chain's been running slightly crooked on that, but I think that's just the nature of how it is. It seems to work all right. Okay then, let's get that bolt out while we're here. Take the oil pump off, which will be for further analysis. So I think I'll do then, I'll just a little pause for a moment. I'll just pop that frame out, that main bearing frame out, and see if we can get the crank to move. Well, that's got that out the bottom there. Now I've undone the frame and there's still no movement whatsoever. This is solid. Now these ones all appear to move, so I guess the problem is definitely this one here. Whoop. These have got the normal side to side movement, so I don't suspect there's anything wrong there. The main bearings look pretty good condition actually. There's a couple of marks on a couple of them, but nothing I'd call bad at all. Now that piston's moving. Right, okay. It looks like this conrod is actually skewed round on the crank there, so... It's got to turn or come out at some point because there won't be anything left in a minute. The bearing's left behind. And what's the bearings got to tell us? Oh, not a lot. What's the bearing got to say? Stay there. Okay. Usual signs of slight wear on the edge there, but nothing too serious. I mean, bearing in mind that's the one in the cap that's not taking the most load, but no. Originals, I'd take it. Yep. Right, so there ain't that one. Might as well pop this one out before and see what it looks like. And hopefully it looks like a piston. Sorry about that. Likewise, the bearing in the actual rod looks even better. Yeah, usual. Oil control rings are stuck in. Rings, they're not too bad, quite springy. Very little wear on the piston skirt. That's a pretty good piston, that one. It hasn't had any nasty contact with anything, so that's number 2. So I've got nothing to suspect there's a problem with that one at all. So that one I'd probably save. I think mine has got the wrong cap on the wrong. Hang on. Hang on a minute. Bear with, folks. Mine's got in a confused state already. I'll sort that out in a moment. Right, that one wiggles. Yeah, that was off of 1, wasn't it? Of course it was. Right. So, what's behind door number 3? I mean, would you trust this con rod? It's probably all right actually. This piston hasn't been that hard to hit, but they're easy enough to check. But if you've got plenty to choose from, then seems all okay. And what's this one going to be like? Ooh. Yeah, you can see how much of an oil burner this was. You can see the actual amount of oil on there, and that oil ring is completely frozen into place. I think that piston's probably had it. It's a good old hit there from a valve. Again, bearing's fine. Yeah, that one's definitely destined for the scrap pile. Right, now we'll take this one out, and I should think the crank's got to move. Am I going to be lucky and get a good crank out of this? At least it's come to rest at such a place it's easy to get apart, because sometimes obviously if it's end up with the caps over there, that can be a real pain. Obviously it ends up with the bolts facing that way. Yeah, that one moves all right. Yeah, you knew it. Straight in the oily tray underneath, guaranteed every time a winner. And number 4, what's that one like? Bearing's good. Very little skirt wear again. Oil ring not stuck in quite as much. Let's put the cap back on there before we get all confused and things get emotional. Throw that bit away. No signs of the bearing having spun or anything, so right. Find the other bolt in a minute. That went launching somewhere, so we'll borrow one out of there. Right, so those two pistons and rods can go to one side. That's the one off of the one that's scrap. Tools flying everywhere, bolts flying everywhere. Right, now can we get the crank out? Nope, it's firmly attached to number one. I think number one big end bearing may have melted. Maybe we're not so lucky on the crank front then. Oh. Yeah, number one bearing appears to be very stuck. Right, do not do this to a con rod you want to save. Cool. Hooray! We have separation. Oh. Wow. What happened there? Okay. Right. Well, the safety say that number one piston is rammed hard in the bore. The con rod is absolutely solid into the solid and won't move. I can only imagine what's happened is this must have kept running for a little while after the event, or they've kept their foot in, and the load of that tight rod and piston has basically severely overloaded the bearing. That is not an oiling failure. That's a severely loaded bearing. It's just punished the literally hammered the surface off of it. The other ones fell in the hole. There is some aluminium transfer or bearing matter transfer here onto the crank, which that would polish off because that's sitting proud. So how hot did the journal get? You can always tell by if it's got very, very dark around there. It doesn't look too bad actually. Yeah, that's just some transfer. This may be okay. Maybe okay. One surefire way is to sit it in the mains and see how it turns in the mains. In case it's bent, of course. That's hitting the rod. Yeah, I have my suspicion that could have bent that. Take out the front main and see how it spins. Yeah. See how lovely and free that spins now? See, that's spinning lovely now. Exactly what you'd expect. Now what's obviously happened, it's probably just got so much load on it, may have bent the nose of the crank slightly. Keep tripping over these bits, they're everywhere. I will put it in the lathe actually out of curiosity and check it, but I know this isn't 100% definitive way of doing this, but it does give you a pretty good idea. Let's see if we can get that pit. Hey, there she goes. Right, that's got that out of the way. Right, let's just drop the crank back in again and just see if it's any better. Ah, I might be telling lies. No, I think that's probably okay actually. I'll put it in the lathe and check it with the dial gauge and see what's what, and that'll probably polish off. So yeah, a bit of luck, we've got a good crank there. Now, that would be a good result. It's got a few marks on it, but nothing you'd call deadly serious. See, if it is bent, it won't have run long enough like that to have actually marked up the bearing. So because what you tend to find is if the crank is bent, you'll get a worn, whoops, mind the cameraman, you'll get a worn main there, one in the cap, because it obviously oscillates, but I think that's okay. Now, oh wow. Oh wow. Oh yes. Right, I think we can see the reason why it didn't want to turn over. Can anybody spot the problem? Look at the bend in that. Wowzer. Oh, the crack. Here's the crack coming right down there, through the skirt. Wow. Oh, that's special. Coo-wee. Little end doesn't move for some reason. Wonder what's wrong with that. Oh, folks, look at that. You see where the impact was? The valve head went in. It split it across here, down there, turned and went through there and comes out somewhere in there. I can't quite see. Broke a bit off that ring. Look at that rod. Oh, wow. So it's bent there. Oh, it's bent there as well. It's actually bent in here, right by the pin. You see the way it's sitting over on the pin. It's actually bent there as well. Good grief. That is quite spectacular. Yeah, I think that's going to be another entry into Martin's Museum of Badly Broken Things. Whoa. Well, I think we can safely say that's done for. I certainly won't trust a rod from cylinder 3 given that kind of scenario. So we can have a look at the old cylinder bore now to finish off with and see what we've got. Ooh, that looks gnarly. Wow. That's took some proper punishment. I think it's got a dent in it. That's what it feels. Wait. That's what it feels like. Oh, it split it. It split the liner. That's where there's water in it. So no, it split the liner and split the block. Right, let's bring you around and show you this. Sorry about the bit of darkness there. The phone moved over in the holder. Please ignore that. Right, there's the crack. It's through there, down there. Wow. Where's my pointing device gone? There it is. I did notice there was some corrosion in the ball. Yeah, that's a split. There's a split all the way up there, right out there and through that. Cool. Number 3 doesn't appear to have done that, but when you actually run your hand into the bore here, you can actually feel it's got a dent. It comes up, and then there's actually a nice smooth dent where the piston actually spread the bore open. Oh wow, wow! I'm not sure whether that's another crack there. Actually, could well be. There's some gouging there where the piston was so tight. And there's the crack running through there. And then it goes down through the water jacket and obviously right down to the bottom in there. I don't know whether it's cracked the front of the block open anywhere. I can't actually see anything. I mean, you can see how thin the liners are and how thin the alley is there. So, I mean, it wouldn't take a lot, but... Oh dear, I think we can safely say that the whole thing has become unwell. Wow. Yeah, there we go. I think that concludes the dismantling of that one. So it's a pretty spectacular one. We've got a bit of everything there. So I think the crank will be all right. Doesn't seem to have discoloured that end, and the aluminium on there will clean off. I'll polish it up and try. But I mean, if the grooves are too deep in there, well, I wasn't expecting to get any usable parts really. It was just a little bit of fun and whatnot. But it's certainly proven to be an interesting one. So I'll give you a last view of that pork on rod. The head is already stripped to go into the scrap. All the other bits, I'll keep a valve head. I think we need to keep... There was a whole valve head stuck in number 1, wasn't it? We'll keep that and that one together. In fact, we'll keep that one. We'll have one of them. And the rest of it can all be committed to the scrap bin, I think. But certainly not trusting the valves. But say it's good, 2 good pistons, 2 good rods there. Possibly a good crank, so that would be a good result. There's a few other odds and ends I've kept as always, nuts and bolts, which are useful. And then I'll strip all the steel components off this, and or as much as I can. And then she can go out in the scrap pile. I think her days are done. So, before we get into, we're heading towards 35 minutes now, most of that can be recycled. That'll be that. So I hope you enjoyed this part 2 on the carnage. I had a feeling the bottom end may have some interesting stories to tell us, judging by the state of the cylinder head and the tops of the pistons. I was kind of hoping part 2 would be just as good, but yeah, I think we've got everything apart from a good hole in the block. So that's about the only... Well, mind you, we have a hole in the block, but it's an internal hole in the block. Cooey, look at that. Yeah, that's quite special when you run your finger down there. You can actually feel it's a lovely smooth undulation where it's just literally bulged the liner. I bet if you could see down inside there, the alley would be split open like star patterns. So, yeah, I reckon she was under some load when it all happened. Anyhow, we picked up another subscriber today as well. So we're only about 7 short now of the 150. And we just gone past 25,000 views. So I'm delighted with that. So thank you all so much indeed. So please like and subscribe. Always leave a comment if you want to ask a question. I'll always get back to you if possible. And thank you very much indeed for watching, and bye for now.